If you watched the news at all this last week, you saw that Texas has experienced some pretty crazy weather. Typically, the timeline with my videos, I shoot them on a weekend and then I spend a week basically editing them, and then I get them posted the next week. And so my latest video that I just posted actually last night was about Noble Otter, a soap made in Texas, and that was before all of the crazy weather that happened in Texas. So I thought might as well do another Texas soap, another Noble Otter soap, and talk about everything that's been happening in Texas. This is another sample that was sent to me by Todd over at Take Care Man, and this is BarrBarr. This is their take on the classic barbershop scent. Take a quick sniff there. Oh yeah, good stuff. Kind of spicy, very sweet. I've seen lots of people describe this soap as very sweet, and I kind of get that too when I take a sniff of this sample. As far as a razor goes, I've got a very interesting razor. I've seen several videos of these on YouTube, and I thought, well, I want to get one. I want to try this. You ever seen these before? This is it's a Russian razor, and it's actually a quad blade. You put a broken or two half blades on top, and then you put kind of a shim, and then you put a full double-edged razor blade, and then you put the bottom plate on, and then you screw it together. So I'll kind of show you here in a sec how to assemble that. It's kind of weird. So that's kind of the two new things that I'm using. As far as my brush that I'm using today, I haven't used this, at least in a video, in a while. Semogue horsehair with the green wooden handle. I like that a lot. And my aftershave that I'm using, this is another sample that I was sent by Todd, and this is Captain Choice Sandalwood. I haven't used a lot of sandalwood. My first kind of foray, if you will, into wet shaving was with Proraso Red, which is sandalwood. And you know, I didn't really know what sandalwood smelled like, and I've heard some people, they're like, oh man, Proraso Red sandalwood is the best sandalwood, and then some people are like, nah, there's better sandalwoods out there. So I haven't ever really tried a different sandalwood scent, so I'm anxious to see if this Captain Choice Sandalwood aftershave, see how it compares as far as the small taste that I've had, if you will, of the sandalwood scent. So I guess next thing that I'm going to do is change camera angles. I'll show you how to assemble this razor here, and then what I'll do is I'll show again my kind of top down angle of me lathering BarrBarr in my timeless bowl. I've got it right here, and of course all I'll do is I'll just press it down into the bowl and get the lather footage there. And then I'll come back up to this angle and we'll talk about Texas weather and everything they've experienced here this last week. So see you in a sec. Okay, so there's everything kind of disassembled there. I'm going to try my best to reach around my tripod and reassemble this thing. The way I've kind of got it laid out here, you can see kind of top to bottom. There's the top plate, there's the two half blades, there's the little shim that goes in between, there's the full unbroken double-edged blade, and then there's the bottom plate, and of course here's the handle over here. The handle and the top plate are both made of aluminum. I assume this kind of shim is made just out of very thin sheet metal or something, and then this bottom plate is plastic. Here's the packaging that it came in. I'll kind of zoom in here. You can see, again, I'm assuming that's Russian. Could possibly be Ukrainian. I'm not exactly sure, but you know, interesting packaging here. It looks like a shoreline of some kind, but just kind of like a blister pack there. If you flip it over, it's actually got the directions there, and again, those are written in Russian, I believe, and I do not speak Russian, so I really can't read these directions, but it's got a nice little diagram, almost like something you'd see from an IKEA piece of furniture, and it's pretty self-explanatory. It's kind of, I would say, top to bottom, kind of opposite of what I've got here, but it shows you essentially how to assemble everything. So very informative there. This is a cheap razor. I've been doing all these cheap razor videos. This cost $5 basically, and then it was $5 shipping from Russia. It only took a couple of weeks to get here. So I'll do the quick assembly. Like I said, I'm reaching around my tripod, so I'll do as best I can I may have to make some adjustments off camera after everything's said and done, but again, a split half, 2 half blades there, or just one split full blade. Then that little shim, and you got to have that shim to put a gap between the two blades. And then, so it's kind of like a 3 blade basically. I'm using Treet Dura Sharp for the full blade, and then using Treet, just regular Treet Platinum half blades. And there you go. It's pretty easy to assemble. I'll hold it up here and it's not going to look great. Let me refocus here. And again, I'm going to go in and make some adjustments, but you can kind of see it gives a 2 blade per side. There, that's pretty good there. You can see a 2 blade per side shave. And then again, that really steep angle there on that top plate. But anyways, so there you go. That's how to assemble these kind of weird looking. That's why I bought it, just because it's weird and it's unique. Okay, let's switch now to the lathering of the Noble Otter BarrBarr soap. So there's the soap. I've got it down in my bowl. I've actually splashed a little water on top of it and let it sit there for a couple of minutes to kind of soften up. Of course, here's my Texas mug that I've got here, and in that mug I've got my Semogue horsehair brush. I know it's a little bit out of focus. I've got the focus set to the bowl, but there you go. So let's go ahead and start getting this lather together. Yes, a very sweet scent, very pleasant, kind of spicy. I'm gonna move here. Not bad at all. Noble Otter, this is now the 4th Noble Otter soap that I have tried. And with every one of them, I have absolutely loved it. I know that I've seen posts on social media that some of their products are kind of hard to come by at times. And I get it. You know, it's just, I don't think that the owners are doing it on purpose at all to drive up scarcity. That's been some of the rumors. It probably just boils down to, you know, inventory space. Like, people don't realize the hundreds, if not thousands of customers, you know, like they can only put out so much product with these small artisan soap companies. They do the best they can. And maybe, you know, just be patient and stuff will come back in stock. I get it. It's frustrating. But if you can't find what you're looking for, then there's a million other artisans out there. This looks amazing. Just like I talked about in my last video, I like more of a sticky lather that I can apply more water to on my face. I'm gonna go with that. I think that looks good. Okay. I'll see you guys back up top. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that razor assembly video and that lathering video as well. In the transition of my camera from that top view to up here, my soap is dried out just a little bit, so I'm adding a tiny bit more water. Get that going again. So yeah, I shoot my videos honestly about a week in advance, or about a week before they actually get posted. And since shooting my last video, I talked about my mom, I talked about Texas, obviously. Texas got ravaged with some really bad winter weather. And it's funny, I mean, I grew up in Texas. Lubbock, Texas is actually where I'm from. It's over kind of in the western part of Texas, very flat. But we had, you know, our fair share of winter weather. We would get a couple of decent snows a year. And when I say decent, I mean like 3 or 4 inches. And then once every like 5 or 8 years or so, we would actually get like 6 or 7 inches of snow. Good scent. Kind of medium scent, maybe I would say here on this soap, but it smells great. So yeah, you know, a few big snows here and there. Now what was always funny about Texas is the next day, it was always like 60 degrees or 65 degrees. So if you did get a fairly big snow, it was always gone the next day. It would melt away, basically. So it was never really a big issue. This last, and as far as cold goes, you know, it'd get down to around freezing when we'd get that snow. So you'd have very heavy, wet snow, good like snowman making snow, good snowball making snow. It always seemed to come on a weekend too, so I wouldn't miss any school, which was always kind of a bummer. Come Monday morning, it was always gone. But, you know, I'd still get out and play in the snow. But this last event that hit Texas was kind of a double whammy, at least for parts of the state, Lubbock included, had a lot of snow, like a few inches, you know. I also used to live in Arkansas. They got a ton of snow. They have more snow on the ground in Arkansas than we have in Wisconsin. To put things in perspective. And not only did they get quite a bit of snow, but they had temperatures right around 0 Fahrenheit, which for Texas is not unheard of. But it's rare. And honestly, the people there just aren't prepared for that kind of weather. Let's give this razor a try. Not the smoothest shave ever. The kind of brushed aluminum on, or this kind of frosted type aluminum on top seems to kind of drag a bit. I mean, it's a $5 razor. I wasn't expecting. I bought it more for novelty. It works though. It totally works. Yeah, just the heating systems in Texas. They have kick-ass air conditioners because it gets hot. But when it comes to heaters, not near as efficient as heaters in the north where I live now. My parents actually were lucky. It got cold. It got even a couple degrees below 0 at their house, but it wasn't for very long. And they didn't get much snow. They live kind of in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Northern central Texas. And they got like maybe an inch of snow, if even that. But they did have to deal with the cold for a few days. One of the things that made everything very dangerous for people down there is there were rolling power outages. The power grid basically could not support the amount of people that were running their heaters more than normal. And to avoid major long-term outages, they had to cut people's electricity off. And then, of course, if you've got temperatures right around 0, then things start to get dangerous. Houses get very cold, pipes burst. You saw the news. It's bad. My parents were fortunate. They kind of live out in the country. I say Dallas-Fort Worth. They live pretty far outside of Dallas-Fort Worth. But they never had an outage. They never had a planned outage. But I have lots of friends that were huddled around their fireplaces at night and they had burst piped because it got below freezing in their house. I am a meteorologist, so weather fascinates me. And I'm not on television anymore, but it's all relative. people here in Wisconsin freak out if it gets above 90 degrees, where to me that's nothing. I mean, I lived in Texas. We had days and days and days where it was well over 100 degrees. But people in Texas freak out if it gets down in the teens, where that's considered a warm day here in Wisconsin. So I'm being kind of light-handed with this razor. It's kind of, I don't know. You just got to be careful with it. Not the greatest shave ever, but it's cool. It's weird. Now weather's fascinating. Let me quickly talk about this soap again. It definitely has a barbershop scent. Kind of smells like Barbasol, the aerosol can of shaving cream. It smells good. A very sweet, classic barbershop scent. Hold on. I have a towel. I dropped my towel there. Let's do a second pass. So something interesting. One of my YouTube friends, Hoon Shaver, he's in South Korea. We comment on pretty much every video that we each post. He talked about how Noble Otter soap is made in Houston, Texas. And I didn't make the connection until this morning when I was reading comments. So I mentioned in my last video that my mother is a cancer survivor, almost 30 years now, cancer-free. But we would go to treatment at MD Anderson Hospital, which is in Houston, which is where Noble Otter is made. The funny thing, though, is I said I grew up in West Texas. Houston is down along the coast. It's like a 9 or almost 10-hour drive from Lubbock, Texas to Houston, Texas. And I remember as a kid making that drive many a times to go for her to have checkups and get treatment in Houston. And as like a 10-year-old kid, I hated it, you know? I hated this long road trip. You may hear my daughter here in a second. I can hear her. She just woke up. She'll probably bang on the door or something, who knows. But yeah, Houston. And my folks were great because here I was, this kid, having to go with them to a hospital. They still made a trip out of it. We would go to like a Houston Astros game, baseball team. Or Houston has a few amusement parks, water parks. We would go to those things. Anytime they took me as a kid, we had to go every like 6 months even in some cases. We always still made it a trip. Because it'd be a bummer to go all the way there just to go to hospital and doctor visits. You're in a different place. Might as well do something fun as a family. But I remember many a times as a kid driving 9 or even 10 hours so that my mom could get cancer treatment. Yeah, several of my friends had burst pipes due to the weather. One of my friends was joking that he had to shovel his driveway and he doesn't own a snow shovel. I never owned a snow shovel in the South. I always tell my wife, I'm fine with living in Wisconsin for now, but I don't want to retire. After we're retired, I don't want to live here. And I love Wisconsin, don't get me wrong. But the snow and the cold, ugh. The joke is always, you don't have to shovel sunshine. But if you live in the South during the summer, the heat can be oppressive. You basically pick what you want to deal with. My folks are in Texas now because it's winter, but then come summer, when it gets really hot in Texas, they're going to come up and stay with us and spend the summer with us here in Wisconsin. And then once, my dad always jokes the first time he hears the word snow on the news, he's heading back to Texas. But clearly they've seen that even Texas is not completely immune from potential hazardous winter weather. I will say the second pass of this razor is better. Not as, it's gliding better. As far as having two blades on either side, is that more efficient? I don't really think so. It's just kind of a novelty thing. I may have already said this before. There's a joke that I say about moving down south, avoiding snow and whatnot. I want to be able to put a snowblower in the back of my truck, drive south till somebody says, "Hey, what's that in the back of your truck?" If they don't know what a snowmobile is, then snow blower, then clearly I'm far enough south, right? Sounds like my daughter has been up now for 3 minutes and wants to paint. I can hear her in there saying something about paint. She loves the snow. She loves to go out and play in it. Build a snowman. She's a true Wisconsinite. The one kind of winter thing I've embraced is ice fishing. I'm actually going ice fishing next weekend with a buddy of mine. He lives up in Duluth, Minnesota. But he's originally from a small town in Wisconsin called Weyerhaeuser. It's not in this video, but my next video I'll post some pictures or video of us ice fishing. I've wanted to do a shave video on a frozen lake, but I don't know, it just seems like a lot of work, dragging all the stuff out there, plus my camera equipment. We'll see. Sadly, I still have plenty of time. If I do want to make a video on a frozen lake, it's approaching late February at this point, but there'll still be plenty of ice on the lakes until like probably late March. All those days that it got around 0 in Texas, we were at like 22, 23 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. Very, very cold here. And props to my heater. It never wavered. My truck didn't want to start in the morning, but I actually have an engine block heater where you can plug it in, and that helps big time. Winter weather. Can't wait for sunny and warm days. Okay, here's that Aftershave Sandalwood Captain's Choice. Oh yeah, that's good. I like it. A nice light scent. Reminds me maybe a little bit of kind of like cedar wood. A little bit of spice to it. That's not bad. Definitely different than Pharos. Okay, oh, there we go. Talked about MD Anderson in Houston, a great cancer treatment. If anybody you know in the country, you get the best treatment there. And people come from all over the world to get treated at MD Anderson, so it's worth the trip. They save lives. And I talked about winter weather and the crazy weather they had in Texas. Fortunately, things have gotten much better for everybody down there. So thanks for joining me for today's Noble Otter shave. And I'll give you a little preview here. I'm not done with Texas soaps. I've got more coming on the way. I'm very excited. Looking forward to sharing those with you. Thanks so much. Have a great day.